Since it is 11 o'clock, we'll welcome everybody to this first in our series of fall webinars that is hosted by the Tennessee State Data Center. Thank everyone who's joining. I'm sure we'll have a few more coming in as we go. We've also had some emails from folks who are planning to watch the webinar later. We are recording this, so we do want to thank everybody that has shown up. This is the first of a series. The next one that we have scheduled is going to be on November 18th at 2 p.m. It's entitled Errors in the 2020 Census, How and When Tennessee Communities Can Request a Decennial Count Review. That is going to be sponsored in partnership with the Municipal Technical Advisory Service and also the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. And it's a topic that discusses how and if communities should use the Census Bureau's Count Question Resolution Program, which is a fairly narrow program, to challenge the results of the 2020 census. It will include, we'll have Matt Freitz, who's the chief of the CQR branch, will present information about the challenge program. We'll also hear from the Department of Economic and Community Development about the special census program that they administer in partnership with the State Data Center. And then also from the Municipal Technical Advisory Service at the UT Institute for Public Service, who will be talking about the state shared taxes and appropriations for the coming fiscal year. And they put out a very handy number, which is a per capita number of revenue that is shared with municipalities on the basis of population. Makes it very easy to gauge the benefit of a person lost or missed in a census count, but also if you're going to challenge the cost of weighing the cost of conducting a challenge or conducting a special census. We have two additional webinars that are not yet scheduled, but we'll be putting information out later about. The first one is the public use microdata areas, or PUMAs, which is a geography update that we will be doing following the release of the 2020 census information. And then the final one, and probably of broader general interest, is work is underway now on the Boyd Center population projections. So we'll be doing an update to the population projections that will move our base year up into 2020, and we will be using move the base year up into 2020 and projecting from 2021 up through 2070. So that one may slip till after the first of the year. I kind of expect that it will, so look for that probably coming up in January. Before we turn it over to Ron, just a couple of housekeeping things. First is this event is being recorded, so we want to make sure that everyone's on their best behavior, but more importantly that you understand that we are going to have a link that we can send to you after this is done, and you can watch it then. I know we've had some questions from people about if that's going to be available. We will get it up either this afternoon or tomorrow. Second is please keep your mics muted during the presentation, and then that leads me into the final thing, which is just questions. We're going to have the chat open, so anybody that wants to ask a question in the chat, I'll be watching that. Erin maybe have her eye on it too. We'll watch for any questions that we can help answer during the course of the webinar itself. We will also have questions afterwards too. So if you want to hold them and ask a specific question, you can do so then. We'll use the hand raise function inside Teams. So if you want to raise your hand, we'll let you unmute and ask your question directly to Ron. And then afterwards, we're going to we'll stop the recording and we'll just have a virtual, what I'm calling virtual approach to the podium, just where you can just stick around and just kind of talk openly after the conference or after this presentation, just like you normally would at a conference. So feel free to stick around and do that. Finally, most importantly, we want to introduce Ron Williams and thank him for presenting today. Ron is a data dissemination specialist with the Census Bureau, and we have worked with Ron at various conferences over the year, and we're very excited to have him come and do this. He's one of he covers Tennessee and Kentucky, and he spends a lot of time working with data users in those areas, organizations and agencies to help them learn how to use census information. He's an educator. He's been working in educating people about how to use data and how to use these applications for probably around 30 years in various roles with the Census Bureau and other agencies inside the federal government. And we want to thank him for joining us from his home, I think, some secure location around the Nashville, Tennessee area. So Ron, thanks again and take it away.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate that. And I've tried to blur the background just so you can see I'm not on one of the area lakes. And if I suddenly drop off, it's probably because I'm catching a fish here. But I wish that were the case where I could be like you. But anyway, good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay, Tim. So get this started here and just let me know when you can see it.
Got it.
Got it. Okay. With our time being somewhat short, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into things because our focus is mainly going to be on the 2020 data. But there's so much other information that's available. We're going to touch on a little bit of other things as well. But that's me. That's my title, office. It's long there. But just Tim can tell you there's a lot of different folks I get to work with just because of this position, and I really enjoy the job. And with that, there's just so much I get to cover with folks. It sounds very, very cliche to say, you don't know what you don't know. That's usually the biggest thing, is that if I can just show you something that you might not have seen, you're going to pick it up right off the bat. And so many of our things are intuitive. So that's one of the aspects of working with census data. It's just how intuitive things are. So you saw the outline there, and I will touch on the Census Bureau. We're actually conducting more than 130 surveys a year, and a lot of those are, big, small, all sorts of different levels of things. But the American Community Survey is our largest ongoing survey. And I need to, and I'll, reason that's on there is I'm going to speak about that a little bit later. But I believe all of you already know about the decennial since we just finished it. And then, of course, there's an economic survey. You'll notice it says 5-year. Well, it comes out on the 2s and the 7s. So 2012, 2017, the next economic survey is actually in 2022. So next year, there'll be another economic survey provides a wealth of information. And then on the mission statement, focus on those last couple of words where it says people and economy. We're part of the Department of Commerce, and that's one of the reasons you'll see so much economic information and, like I mentioned, the economic census. Let's get into the American Community Survey and the decennial because they're not the same thing. This is a little on the American Community Survey. Give you a moment to read over that, and I'll speak as you're reading. But it goes to about 3% of all all U.S. households every year. And that data is constantly updated. It's released as 1-year estimates or 5-year estimates. Some of you that have been around a while, you're familiar with the 3-year estimates. They went away in 2013. And so now we're just focused on the 1-year and 5-year. But you can see how much money is tied to this and how many people. And if you think about that 10-year span, it may only sound like a few million every year, but when you add that up and it's continuous, that's why you get very, very good estimates, and usually they're pretty accurate estimates. So that's the American Currency Survey. And then we have the decennial. Like I said, that's where we'll focus today. The decennial, that's your official count where you make the mark and say there are 518 people that live in this community. With the American Community Survey, they're going to say we estimate there's 520 plus or minus 25 people. And so that's the difference, is you're going to have a margin of error with your American Community Survey estimates, where the decennial this is the number. The American Community Survey collects a vast amount of information. There's over 40 topics that they collect data about. Whereas with the decennial, we had, I believe, 10 questions this past year. And so that's why it's so much less. Now, I know that you can read the rest of it, but under that part that says new data entry, and I mentioned the ACS that's constantly being updated, the reason that says plus or minus 65,000 is that is a key number. If you have a population of a geography, whether it's a zip code, a county, whatever, if the population is greater than 65,000, you're going to receive what they call 1-year estimates. If the population is below 65,000, you're only going to see 5-year estimates. So think about the estimates as overlapping 5-year bands. And the reason for that is just for the quality of the estimate, they need a larger pool sample size out of that. And a great example out of Tennessee is Johnson City. Johnson City has been right at that 65,000 number, plus or minus 65,000 for the last several years. And it's kind of fun, well, as me as a data person, to see things like that in places that I'm familiar with, and especially people that I enjoy is going out to the Johnson City area and knowing that, okay, are they going to get 1-year estimates from now on, or are they going to keep getting 5-year? So that's the fun thing. And then as I've mentioned these estimates, you'll notice the last thing, period of time and point in time. Um, a good way to look at it is if you're happen to be sitting on a freeway overpass and you take a picture and you count how many cars are on the road at that time, that's like the decennial survey. You looked at a specific date, specific time, and said there's, 300 cars visible in this image. With the American Community Survey, it'd be like taking a video and then taking snippets of the video and saying, well, at this point in time, there's 310, but a little later in the day, it's 350. And another time, it varies. And so that's why your ACS counts, fluid is not the correct word, but that's why it's estimates, is because you're looking over the period of time and it's not that particular point. So I know I've spent a little time on that, probably more than some of you wanted to hear, but I just need to kind of flesh out those differences. Now, both of them rely on the same geographies, and this is a very oversimplified look at geographies that are associated with census data. Everything nests neatly within one or the other, which you can see your metropolitan areas, urban areas, those regions, they all fit within the nation. And then within the regions, you have your states, and within the state, congressional districts, school districts, you can see all of those things in the state. And like I said, this is overly simplified. Tim is a master at understanding, especially anything involving census data. But I know Tim is really good at being able to explain all of the subcategories that may not be listed and that sort of thing. But within the county, you have census tracts. Now, a tract does not cross the county line. And within a tract, you have what's called a block group. It does not cross a tract line, and a census block doesn't go outside of a block group. And that's why I use the term nesting. Think of a Russian nesting doll, how each one fits neatly inside the other, and you can always put the cap on the next one. That's what you have here with the census block being that smallest piece, and it's so small that that data, that's only available with decennial, not with the ACS estimates. The Census Bureau does everything it can to keep from identifying it. An individual, a household, a business, they do everything they can to keep from having that release that might identify one of those entities. So that's why your block data is only released on the decennial years. Whereas your block groups, you can see on the left-hand side, there's a box there showing the population, and that population 600 to 3,000 or 240 to 1,200 housing units. Notice that's a band in there. If we went out to some of our more rural parts of the state, that number, population, or the number in the housing units, it might be one or the other. As you move into more of an urban area, you start seeing it rely more on the populations. And then with our tracts, that 4,000 is really I'll say the sweet spot. That's what they're really looking for. But a friend of mine, actually it was a friend I've known for several years, was living in Yonkers in New York City, or just outside New York City. She had 3,100 people that lived in the building that she lived in. She lived, huge apartment complex, and just her building had 3,100 people. So you think of the thickness of the pencil to draw a line around where her building was, you're going to have right at 4,000. So that's why there's a band there. Some of the areas you go out, Montana areas, you might find a tract with less than 1,200. Go into New York City or some areas of Los Angeles, you may find a tract with 12,000. So there are some deviations, but anyway, just the biggest thing is know that these things nest within each other, and there are certain criteria when you get to the smaller geographies of why the data may or may not be there. Let me move on here just a moment. There we go. So let's talk a little about accessing the data, because that's really the reason Tim asked me to be here today. If I can, there we go. There's three main things we're going to touch on, and that's data.census.gov, QuickFacts, and something that's brand new is this 2020 Census Demographic Map Viewer. You can see what looks like a map there on the image. I just did a screen capture that came off of that screen. So there's some wonderful tools that are available. So let's just go ahead and move into our demonstration. So let me skip out of this and let's move here. All right, Tim, can you still see my screen?
We got you.
Okay, just wanted to make sure when I switched over to Chrome. And the reason I'm using Chrome is that some of the functionalities appear to work better in Chrome, but you can use Chrome, Edge, Safari, most any of your browsers will work. I'm just using Chrome today. So to go to census.gov, you can either type in census.gov, or if you go to something like Google, you don't remember it, just type in the word census and hit enter. You'll notice Census Bureau is the first item listed. If you use Bing, I think you're going to get a definition of census first, and then Census Bureau is the first actual link. So usually we're right at the top, first one or first two. When we go to the Census Bureau's website, I know a lot of you have been there, but we have a few that I understand are fairly new to this, so I'll cater to them at the moment. You'll notice there's articles. This one happens to be about census, the 2020 decennial. But as we scroll down, you'll see there's articles, there's links to all sorts of different things. You can see there went visualizations, publications, the data, the COVID-19 hub, which is phenomenal. And then you can see a calendar here. There's quite a bit on this page. I know that we have a lot of people that deal with, population clocks. It doesn't show on the screen, but if you click on the population clock, notice it takes you directly there. You can see the population changing, going up and down. And of course, these are estimates for both of those, but you can change the date. A lot of information on here. A lot of this is interactive. So just something for you to, spend time on somewhere down the road, because this is not of interest to everyone, but yet it's available. So let's get into our data. At the top of the screen, you'll notice a dark blue band going across. Census logo, you have a search box. You can type in something that you want to search for on the Census website. It'll take you there. It's a great little tool. Underneath this, you'll notice that there are several items that are listed here on tabs. All that you need to do is hover over any one of these items, and you'll notice that more items pop up underneath. Before we go any further, I want to share this with everyone. On the Census website, if you're going to open anything or click on something, it's a single click. If you accidentally double click, say this media, you might jump a page ahead of what you're wanting. You might actually skip what you need. So just keep that in mind. Everything is a single click. And to get to our data, where it says Explore Data, you can just click this Explore Data main. So, this is our very first mouse click, and it's already taken us to Data Tools, and we're ready to start extracting data. I mentioned on the slides a few minutes ago about QuickFacts, and you'll see QuickFacts loaded automatically right here. So we clicked on Explore Data Main. It took us to this page. You can see data.census.gov. That's our most common tool. That's the reason it's there at the top center. And then we have QuickFacts. If I click on this teal colored box, it takes me directly to the site. With the site, what you can do is you can type in the geography, and notice it's a state, county, city, town, zip code. If you put in a zip code, it's probably going to take you to the city or the town, because that zip code is going to be located in there. So you'll just need to play around a little bit. But I'll do something. I'll add something like Knox County. And as you start typing, notice anything that involves Knox comes up. So if you type in the word Washington, you're going to get a full page. So narrow it down. I'm looking at Knox County, and now I see only the Knox counties in the nation. So I'll choose Knox County, Tennessee. You'll see that it has loaded here on the page. Data table, preloaded. I believe there's 62 items that are on here. But at the very top in this part about population, you'll notice you have the 2020 data and there's the 2010. So if you want to compare it back and forth, you most definitely can. You can have up to 6 geographies on this page. If you want to take a geography out, you just click on the blue X. So if you're working, say, with a chamber of commerce or an organization, something like that, that wants to look at a local or regional area, they can add in, like I mentioned, up to 6 geographies. A lot of your area developmental agencies, they're interested more in a region. And this is a great tool just because it's, already loaded. I mentioned 62 items. You can see a lot of this is going to be directly from the 2020 census. Some is going to be estimates, but you'll notice you have little things here and there that you can click on and it will give you more information about that item. And the best thing is you scroll down to the very bottom, there's your notes about each one of those. So if you don't see something, don't hesitate to scroll down. I used the term a little while ago about not revealing anything about an individual, and the key term there is suppressed. So they're going to suppress that data if you see a letter D in there. Anyway, this is QuickFacts. I mentioned, here are the numbers, but okay, great, wonderful, that's a number, great, what do I do now? There's some wonderful things built into this tool. On the page, if you'll look just above this table, you'll see where it says all topics. If you click the drop down, you can change the category that you're looking for information. If I click age and sex, notice that's all I see is age and sex information. If I go back to all topics, you'll notice I have everything here. At the top, where we had typed in the geography, where it says select a fact, you can click a drop down and you can see every one of the items that we had below here. And if you click on, let's click on veterans. If I click on veterans, you'll notice here at the top, in the top of the table, it now has veterans. If we scroll down, you'll see veterans has been highlighted here as well, and it stays in blue at the top. Now you can only do one item at a time. And when I mention that, I'll show you why I use those words in just a moment. But let's go to our 2020 data. I'm just going to click on this row, and you'll see that now 2020 is at the top. Just to the right, on this blue bar, right of table, you see the word map. If I click on the map, it's going to show us color-coded every county in Tennessee and how they stack up for the 2020 survey. So there's your populations, 2020 data. Notice it's listed right here at the top. And if we scroll down, here's your legend. And just underneath, it says populations below 5,000 are not in QuickFacts. So if you run into a zip code that may have a population less than 5,000, that data is not going to be available. QuickFacts, and the main reason is that you have 62 items, and some of those may need to be suppressed. And so they're just not going to show that data. So anyway, that's a limitation. It's on there, and it's a good limitation. To the right of the map, we have the word chart. If you click on the chart, you're going to get a horizontal bar chart here. And the first county or the first geography is listed at the top. And then everything else is in alphabetical order. So you can see there's your populations, county level. And as we scroll down, of course, you can do states, whatever geography, zip codes, whichever you want to do, you can put in here. But this is what I like. On this far right, if I click the dashboard, it's going to bring up that data table, the map, and the chart all on one screen. And you can see this is right here. What's great is at the top on the URL, notice that says population pop 010220. What that means is that's the 2020 population. If I click on 2010, if you watch the URL, The URL just updated. So now I'm looking at 2020 data, 2010. Now I'm back to 2020. And you can see how I did that with just a couple of mouse clicks. With that being a unique URL, if I click the word more over here, notice you can print this. It comes out looking like an Excel spreadsheet. You can download it. You can email it. You can see all the different things you can do with this page just because that URL is located there. And I love this. I've seen some schools use this. I've seen also, I know of one particular Chamber of Commerce up in Kentucky. They have this loaded on their website, and it's for people to go in and experiment. I believe you guys can see a lot more uses, especially libraries and things. But that's one place to get 2020 data. But let's get into where it really matters, where we can really, do some things. I went back to the census home site just for a continuity reason. So I took us back here. I go to Explore Data and Explore Data Main. The very top of this page has data.census.gov. And I'm going to click on it. With the 2020 decennial, what happened was they created a series of data tables that are the initial tables that are released, population and housing tables. In 2010, there were 5 tables. In 2020, there are actually 6 tables. So what's the best way to get there? Well, underneath here, where you have this search bar, you'll see it says advanced search. I'm going to click on it, and I'm hoping that that'll be changed shortly to a filtered search, because you'll notice right here, here are my filters. So I'm going to filter the information looking for 2020. There are, several ways you can do this. One of the ways that I like to do it, excuse me, is click on years and click on 2020, and you'll see it popped up down here at the bottom. Yeah, made it a little larger for some of you that may be using a smaller screen. So I went to my years, I clicked 2020, and then I want to look at the decennial. So you click on surveys, and you'll see decennial. And as we scroll down, redistricting 94,171. You can put in a geography at this time, but we're just going to click enter. So I'm going to click search in the bottom right. Notice with just a couple of mouse clicks, I have not typed anything in. Let's count them. I went to Explore Data Main. That was 1 click. I clicked on data.census.gov and I clicked on advanced search. So 3 mouse clicks and you're here. And I mentioned housing. Here's our first table, H1, occupancy status. And we're looking, if I click on that, the default is going to be the United States, because remember, we didn't put in a geography. But if we click customize table and I click on the word geographies, now we can change that. We can go down to the county, the tract, the block, and the block group, as I mentioned. You can see other geographies that are available in here with 2020 data. So let's start with our state. Now you can do this, as I mentioned, in any number of sequences, any orders. By all means, you can just pick one geography or multiple. But I'm going to start with Tennessee. So I've selected my state. I selected Tennessee. If I click close in the bottom right, this says Tennessee has 3,031,605 households. They have a little over 2 million, 2.7 million occupied. You only have 288,000 unoccupied households, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's great if you really think about it. Don't have that many vacant homes, which is good. If we go to our geography and you want to add a geography, you can just click on, another county, which let's do that. Let's go to Tennessee. We'll pick Anderson, a couple at the top. So let's go with Anderson, Bedford, and Benton. If I click close in the bottom right, let's do that. You'll see that there's your data. This is households for each one of those counties. What if I don't want Tennessee anymore? So if I click geographies, you'll notice beside the word Tennessee, there's a little X. So if I click the X, notice in our filters that are here at the bottom, it has just those 3 things. And if I close, notice my data table changed as well. So it's that simple to bounce back and forth through here. So in the upper right, I'm going to click this census logo, takes me back to where we were. And what I've basically done is I have erased everything where I was. As far as topics, geographies, I'm starting from scratch. And it's just because I want to show you a different way. The first way we clicked years and then surveys. I'm going to click surveys this time because we're interested in decennial. And then we scroll down to this one, the redistricting public law 94-171. So make sure you choose that one. And if I go to my years, notice I have 2010 or 2020. So select which one you want. You can't bounce back and forth. And this time, let's actually select a different geography. What we'll do is we'll go to the tract level. Remember when we had the original part and I talked about the Russian nesting dolls, a block fit in a block group, and a block group was in a tract. Tract was in a county, and you can see how this lines up. And the reason these are at the very top are these are the most commonly searched geographies. So they put them up here to make it easy to find. So let's go to the block level. Now this is the smallest geography which we release data, and we only do it with the decennial. And I want you to see how many questions we're going to answer, because think of this, we're answering questions. What geography are you interested in? So we'll go back to Tennessee. I'm going to have to tell it what state, what county. So I'm going to have to tell it what state, what county, what tract, and what block group. So let's go to Anderson. And you'll see I'm in my county. I can select all blocks, but let's just select these first ones. Okay. When I clicked on 201, you'll notice that it has all of the tracts here. If I click on tract 1000, you'll see it's block 1000. And then you can see with that tract, I can now select the blocks. And at the very bottom, and you can add as many as you want. You can make a huge table. I'll cover those details in a little bit, but you can make a huge data table. And if I click search, notice what I have is the exact same tables that we had before. But if we click race, this is going to give us our total population as well. So at each one of these blocks, you can see how small some of the blocks do not have any households. Why would that be? Well, think of your industrial areas. You know, your industrial parks. Actually, where I live directly across the street is an open field. It's part of a church. The church has about 20 acres. Part of it's an open field, and that is actually within a block. So no one lives at the church. No one lives in the open field. So that's why you're going to have things like that. This one, you can see where it's located. You can see the others. Well, what if I want to try and figure out where this actually is? Okay, now, I guess what we should also focus on is the actual data. Notice in this P1 how it breaks up into your different races, 2 or more races, and as you scroll down, 3 or more, or population of 3 races. And this is how people have self-identified. This first one is that they've identified with white, black, and your American Indian or Alaskan natives. The next one you can see is white, black, Asian, because we're looking at individuals that have identified with 3 races. And then it actually goes up to 6 races across the nation. And those with the 6 races that are very few, but yet they left it in there. And you can see the numbers of the individuals as we come down. And you can see there's a lot of people that associate with 1 and 2 races typically. When you get to the 3s, the 4s, not quite as much. But this is what's in that table, revolving race. In the upper right, if I click Customize Table, we were here a few minutes ago. I showed you how you could click on geographies, and you can add and subtract geographies, whichever you need to do. Since we're just looking at 2020, that's why that is there. But notice here where it says Map. It's on the far right. If I click Map, it takes us to an interactive map, and it's going to focus on that area of Anderson County with those blocks that I selected. And you can see the blocks that are there. As I begin to come out, you'll notice the blocks have a 4-digit code. Well, those blocks are within a tract, and you'll see that the tract typically has either a 3-digit or a 5-digit code. If it's a 5-digit, it'll be something like 204 with a decimal and then 2 more digits. So, but this shows you where it's located within Anderson County. So if you think we have bored with data all the way down to this level, well, what if I want to add more blocks? What you can do is you can click on each block individually, and where it says select, you can add it in. Okay, you'll notice it's color coded. We'll show what you can do with that. What if I want to look at several blocks? If I click in the upper left where the finger is, and since this is being recorded, it's why I'm going a little faster than normal. You'll notice I now have added in all of the areas here, and on the left-hand side, it shows us the populations, the bands that are in here. Well, the colors are difficult to see on some computers in some circumstances. On the left-hand side, you have what looks like a gear, and if you click that gear, you have a color palette, and if I click the drop down, you see how quickly I was able to change those colors. So you might find something that's, maybe more vivid than what you're looking for. You'll notice that you have an area here that several blocks, 0 population, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not that familiar with Anderson County, but I bet if we moved over in this area where you have, looks like more roads, you can see how I saw the roads in there. Notice the population bounced up there. So you don't have quite as many that are 0. So anyway, pretty neat thing that you can do. I clicked the census logo in the upper left. I've gone back to the start. So we're back in our advanced search. If we go to, I'll just go years because that's the way I like to approach this one, is years, decennial, and it's because it really narrows down my options. You can come in to where it says topics and you can choose the topics that you're interested in. If I go to populations and peoples, you'll see that if there's a box, think of that as the end of the road. If there's no box, it's still asking questions. So if we go to voting and registration, and let's pick a geography. This time, let's go back to the county level. We'll come back to Tennessee. And then let's look at something like, excuse me, I'm looking for it here. Let's go to Cocke County. If I go to Cocke County and I click search, you'll notice I have 2 different data tables. Notice this says 2020 because that's the year we specified. And then we have 2020. So you have Hispanic and race for population 18 and over because we're looking at voting data. And you'll see what it's given us here is the title, race for population 18 and older for the county. So we're not looking at the tract level, and you can see how quickly we pulled that. So just think of it as you're answering some questions. What am I looking for? Am I interested in people? Interested in housing? If I'm interested in the people, what aspect? What about the people am I looking for? So I'm going to click the back arrow in the upper left, and you'll see how it has backed us up. So a couple of different ways that you can go in to adjust this information. I'm going to change my topic. If I just click that box there, notice it went away. So you can click the X beside the filter, or you can click the box. Either one, it works. And it's one of the things I like about the tools. It's very, very intuitive. So we've looked at our geography year table. I'm going to click search because it's going to give us those 6 items. The table that's been added, for those of you that that might have worked with decennial data before, is we now have a table involving group quarters. So if we click on it, notice I didn't put a geography, I already had Cocke County loaded. I didn't add another one. And it shows us in Cocke County, there are 313 people in some sort of group quarters. And then it shows you the different types of group quarters that are available there. So anyway, really nice, really easy to use tool, or I should say, I feel that it's very easy to use just because it's, you can navigate it so easily. But if I go back to my census homepage, and this is one Tim and I spoke about not long ago, is there are several different visualizations that have been added that correlate to different data tools, but it's already pulled all the data for you. So you don't have to go out and create the wheel yourself. And a great way to find them is we go to Explore Data, and over here, you'll see the word visualizations. If I click on visualizations, notice what we have multiple different items that we can click on. And I know that Tim subscribes to a lot of census data, and all of you can do the same thing, subscribe to get these updates. But there was an update that came out, I believe it was in August, and it's on page 2 of this. And I'm just scrolling down to give you ideas of some of the things that are available. But if I go to page 2 and I begin to scroll down on page 2, we'll give it just a moment here. There is a 2020 demographic data. Let me find it here. You'll see your 2020 census demographic data map viewer, and you'll see there's other 2020 visualizations. This is one we're going to focus on. If I go to this one, there are several tabs, so it's a different additional information that you can pull. And you can see, here's where it explains everything about it, and here's the actual tool. Just above it is Interact, opening in a separate window. So click on the separate window, and you'll also see there's a guide, quick tips guide, and a video show you how to use this. They're going to be a lot more professional than I am on that, but I just, trying to do this in the time frame we have. We opened that in a different tab, and as I mentioned, there are several different tabs you can click on and get different things. With the default being population, you can see here's population density across the nation. If you click population change, you can see your population change. 18 and over. Why? It's because that's your adults. A lot of times that's also the voting age. And so that becomes a very important number that's in there. So also individuals that are typically moving out of the household. So if we moved something like race alone here at the top, the 3 tabs that are here, if I click race alone, remember there were 3 tabs that were right here. Now there are more tabs. And why is that? Because we're breaking it down into several different races. And you can see that in Tennessee, percent white, okay, we're looking at the state level here. As you zoomed in, notice I'm now seeing county level data. Now, if you click on something like Davidson County, it gives you a number. Okay? But you'll notice you don't get the interactive aspect like you have over here. It does not update the legend that's on the left-hand side of the screen. But you can see as you click on it, percent white, we move over here into Madison, you have right at 55%, 55, we go to Shelby County, you'll notice it's 35% white. So what are the others? Well, if we click on Black or African American, you can see here where the percent Black or African American in the area around Memphis, you can see that it's 51% Black or African American. Total population of whatever race we're looking at. Click here. I believe this is Haywood. If this is Haywood County, you'll notice it's 50% or more. And then as we move across the state, if I chose Jackson County, you'll notice it's 0.4. And if we go to another, American Indian, you'll see most everybody is out here on the eastern side, close to the Cherokee National Forest. Go to Asian, you notice your Asian pockets across the state. Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, up around Montgomery County, so Clarksville, that area. Notice what you have. And you see how easy this was. I'm just basically reading the tabs and clicking on it. If we go to race alone or in some sort of combination, give it a moment to update. You can see, remember that we were looking at various races earlier. So race alone or combination. Here's Black or African American, a different legend that's there in the bottom. At the top, if I go to Hispanic origin, now we can identify with those that have stated they're of Hispanic origin. And if we click, say, Colorado, you can see percent Hispanic or Latino, and you can see the numbers that are there. Same thing with housing. You can see how this is very, very interactive. And this is 2020 data. This is not American Community Survey estimates. This is from the actual 2020 data. So I really like this, and I like it because you can look at the tabs, and when you open each tab, it gives you subtabs. So earlier where I showed you data tables, with those data tables, this data has already been generated for you. Now there are some limits. As I mentioned, when you zoomed in, you start seeing data at the county level as you zoom in. But as you keep going, notice that as I keep going in, I take Davidson over here and I continue to zoom in. Now you can see the tracks. You're not going to see an individual block on here, but you can see tract level data. So with the map, the interactive map, you can go from the nation to a state to a county, all the way down to the tract level. And especially if you're looking at something like populations, just the total population, and you're looking at an area, we'll take down here by Chattanooga, because this is a really fascinating area. If we zoom in down in, is that Hamilton? Yeah, Hamilton County, you can start seeing the tracks and see your population densities. So I really like this, and just because it's so easy to see the population densities as you move in. So great little tool, great visualization. I mentioned that there were other visualizations that were on the page that led us here. And I just clicked back. There were several pages of those. The ones that we're looking at are on page 2. And you can see there are 4 pages there just listed, and you can go back several years. Tim, you and I did not discuss this one, but we were just looking at the demographic. But here's a 2020 population and housing state data. This one's kind of fun, because when you start working with it, you can see that the tool here is you can start changing the states, the counties, view all counties in, and if you click all county, anyway, very interactive. It's a great little tool also, but you'll notice it gives you a little more detail. So I like this one as well. So Tim, that's your bonus one for the day. Let me shift back over to our slides, and I'll wrap things up with us. So we did a quick demonstration. Turn this back on. There are a few resources for us to learn more, not just me, but other places you can go. With the, click the wrong button there. We have what we call the Census Academy, and it's meant to be like a online schoolhouse. On the left-hand side, you'll say, where it says bring data experts to you. This is just like what we're doing today. Tim asked me to come, and so I came, and I'll meet with individuals or groups or different organizations. So don't worry about that. If you just need some individual help, just reach out to me. There are data gems. The videos are typically anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes long. And normally it shows you just how to do one thing at a time. We have courses that are available, and you can see you learn at your own pace. We also have webinars. For those of you that tuned in a little early, Tim and Aaron and I were talking about a national webinar specifically about data.census.gov. That's this afternoon. And that webinar is going to cover basically things that have changed with that tool in the past month, because it is a growing and expanding and constantly shift changing, if you will. So that's this afternoon. But if you go to the webinar portion on Census Academy, you can see that there are hundreds of webinars that have been recorded that are uploaded, where you can see typically be able to see the slides, hear the recording, actually watch it, and also view a transcript. That's on most all of them. So you can see past webinars and upcoming, and then you can see here in the bottom right where you can send a message directly. So if you have a question, even if, and I'll make this very simplified, what is the population of Sumner County, Tennessee? You can send that to that census.askdata, someone will get back with you. Typically, someone like myself will get back with you or one of our assistants. Or you might say, hey, I was looking into this and I'm trying to generate some sort of graphic, some sort of, well, on the state Tennessee SDC website, Tim and his team have created some amazing maps and different things with Tableau and Esri and all sorts of different things that is at his disposal. And we can help you with those things as well. So from the very simple to very complex, don't hesitate to reach out to there. So Tim, what I'll do is I'll just stop at this point and let's address any questions that have come up.
Thanks, Ron. That was really good. And what I notice when I hear you present is how much I find myself getting into a rut of using a website or a tool the exact same way. So it's really helpful to see you show it with a different perspective, and I always learn something because of that. So I want to thank you for doing that. Ron did mention if you haven't had enough, Ron, you can get on the national webinar this afternoon at 2 p.m. for a focused update on data.census.gov. That link, I've dropped that into the chat so you can get information about it there. And I also just wanted to reiterate something Ron mentioned, and that is he's available for custom training, and not just on data.census.gov. I don't know, I'll put you on the spot here, Census Business Builder and some other types of census applications that are available if you want to learn more about how small business owners and entrepreneurs can use the census demographic and economic data to develop business plans, or from a regional perspective, how a chamber or a planning agency might be able to use get information about the services and businesses that are in their area. Great tools. So feel free to contact Ron directly. If you're not able to find him because of his secure location, we will put you in touch. So if there are any questions, you can drop them in the chat. You can also just raise your hand and unmute if you did want to ask anything specifically. One thing, while we're waiting for any questions to come in, Ron, one thing you didn't mention is that you are spending some time working at the Census Bureau and the Center for Enterprise Dissemination, which is the group that puts out data.census.gov. So you've got a little insight into the roadmap of where things are headed. What's coming down the pike with those tools?
Man, thanks, Tim. Let's see. I'll go ahead. There's a lot of super secret stuff there.
Yeah.
One thing that and guys, Tim and I have a very good relationship, and we're able to bounce things off of each other. So with things that are being developed, frequently I'll contact Tim and say, hey, what do you think about this? How does this look? And oh, by the way, don't dare tell a soul that you've seen this. Anyway, so we do have that relationship going on, and there are some changes coming to data.census.gov. Mostly design changes that are going to be happening over the next few months. And I can tell you that when you go to what's called the advanced search, which I'm trying taking it upon myself to make everybody I know hear me, that I want that changed to a filtered search, because that's really what you're doing, is working with filters and nothing that advanced. But that page is going to look completely different. With the look, all of the data is still going to be there. The map you saw where I had to click on what looked like a gear on the left-hand side to do some manipulations. You may not have noticed that the legend with the map was located actually outside of the visible map. It was over on the left side of the screen. Things like that are going to be merged where that they'll all be in one place. So if you want to take a screenshot of it and edit the size, or snip it, snag it, whatever type of tool you're using, you can do that. It'll be a lot easier for those visualizations to happen. There were actually 44 updates to data.census.gov that came out just this past month. So you had, those items. It's too many for me to go over, just in this short span. Between July and August, there were 65, 66 updates. So Tim's asking, what's coming? There are hundreds of things that we're working on. And what actually gets dropped each month is what is showing as testing accurately. And so we're constantly running those tests. I know that's a lot of words not answering a specific question, but that's about as close as I can get it, especially in this group environment.
Well, and it's a great point that when you think about where data.census.gov was when it first came out and where it's at today, it's evolved tremendously, and its usability has improved dramatically. And a lot of people still may pine for the old tools, but I've long since forgotten that they were there, and really favor this interface over what we had previously. So the other question I have for you, Ron, again, if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and unmute. What are some of the types of groups that you work with when you do get requests for custom training? Who do you work with, and what kinds of information are people asking you for?
I guess the easiest answer to that is any data user. I had a junior high student this past year that contacted me. His teacher had been in one of my presentations. The teacher said, "Here, call this guy at the Census Bureau." And he was looking for the population of a specific county for a research paper, junior high research paper. And I helped him with that. That was great. That was wonderful. Oh, there's Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Anyway, I work with any data user. So going from that all the way to, I mentioned developmental agencies earlier, nonprofits. So you can imagine all of your government agencies, especially your congressional individuals, are interested in data. The nonprofits are. Right now, I'm doing a major project on adventure tourism. If you're not familiar with adventure tourism, go out to Colorado and go hiking, rafting. That's adventure tourism, rock climbing. I can't divulge the organization I'm working with, but they are needing vast amount of data because what they're doing is they're trying to get businesses directly related to adventure tourism to open up in that area. So they have about 500,000 visitors a year going to this location, which they've gotten that information from various locations, and now they're coming to me for economic data and businesses that are types businesses that are there. Tim mentioned a couple of data tools earlier, Census Business Builder being one, but also using a tool called On the Map. And On the Map is a phenomenal business tool, and it shows a lot of your routes that people go to work and where people live. And so you can see that because it's a fairly rural area, and they're going to be trying to draw in employees from about a 50-mile radius. And one of the neat aspects of that, and I'll share this just to give you an idea of some of the fun things that are happening, is that just after the initial aspects of trying to help them, they had a large industrial park that the city managed, and they have donated 10,000 square feet to a local community college to actually start setting up training for employees that, people in retail, well, you can imagine all the different vocational things a community college can train on. So it's not just offering coursework, but also bringing the vocational aspect. So it's kind of got a big ball rolling, and every day I feel like I'm over my head whenever they call me. But anyway, so yeah, Tim, it's any data user from educators to nonprofits to corporations to just this morning I had a contact with a marketing and advertising firm that contacted me, and it's actually a firm I would imagine almost everybody has heard of. So you're looking at probably a Fortune 100 company that contacted me this morning and said, "Hey, we need to do this." And so yeah, so I don't mind working with an individual, or like this afternoon there'll be several thousand on that webinar this afternoon. So Ryan, it's good to see you. I'm gonna pass Tim. Did you have a question? No, I can't hear you, Ryan.
You're muted, Ron.
Okay. I'm not familiar with American Sign Language that well, but I think Ryan said just
That's not the one you're used to getting, I think. So
yeah.
We're at the Ryan. If you do have a question, stick around or throw it in the chat. We'll be on here for a minute. Good to see Ryan out in Memphis. We're at the 12 o'clock hour. We've reached noon, so we'll wrap things up. But just a reminder that we'll stick around if anyone wants to just open the forum, unmute, talk and chat. We'll be here. Ron's got to run here in probably a little bit so he can get ready for his other webinar. But I did want to thank him. It's great great to see Ron. Hopefully we'll be able to get to see each other in person soon. And want to thank you for your insight and sharing these tools. That was really really great to see you walk us through those. I also want to thank Erin Hatfield, who's run in the Boyd Center Master Control Room, running things for us, and she's been very helpful in getting these communications out. And thank to all of you who took an hour to join us this afternoon. We are going to send out a recording, a link to a recording. We'll post that here either this afternoon or tomorrow. Any questions that come up later about using the redistricting data, about some of the prepared products that we've compiled, Excel spreadsheets, GIS data for the state of Tennessee, contact me directly. We'll be able to help you out with that. And that's it. So look forward to hopefully seeing you at a future webinar. Ron, thanks again. And anyone who wants to stick around, we'll be here. Thank you all.